Now, let's quickly go to the NPP's home. And as you know, Alan Kyerematen has withdrawn from the delegates conference that will elect the flag bearer in November. And he has given a number of reasons. Let me share just about one or two of those reasons with you. And let's begin to ask the questions if he is justified or not in what he talks about. There are people who have issues with how he seeks to raise his concerns. But well, he's entitled. He's the one on the field and he is the one putting himself up. So he's entitled to raise the issues the way he has done them. I'll share that with you shortly. But he says some very despicable things happened in the... Let me read it. He says that after having carefully analyzed the results of the elections, it is absolutely clear to me from events leading to, during and after the elections, that the Special Delegates Conference was strategically and tactically skewed in favor of one particular aspirant. The pronouncements made by some leading members of our party, both before and after the elections, also lend weight to my observations. Remember, right after you have picked the 5 people who should go to the next round, it's now being said, oh, Bawumia got enough. Don't waste our time. Everybody should withdraw and then we call it a day. He says the level of intimidation of varying intensity, directly and indirectly, unleashed on a significant number of delegates at various voting centers across the 16 regions is unprecedented. We will fact check if this is true. And if it is true, where is the evidence really? It's unprecedented in the history of our party. In addition, the fact that my polling agent in the Northeast region has suffered severe damage to his eyesight, arising from his bold and courageous effort to ensure compliance with the very rules and regulations for the conduct of the elections as approved by the Presidential Election Committee, will forever remain a dark spot in the history of internal elections within the party. This incident and various acts of violence and collusion reported in other voting centers are appalling, unconscionable, and despicable. I am committed to and value the safety of those who work with me and for me, and I will always fight for their interests. The question I keep asking myself is, quote, how did we get here as a party in the first place? And how far are we prepared to tread on this dangerous path to self-destruction? Remember that, self-destruction. Now he says, regrettably, I am not convinced that the circumstances I have referred to earlier will not persist or even be escalated in the next round of elections, for which balloting is scheduled for Wednesday, the 6th of September. Well, that has also been shelved. In the light of the foregoing, I wish to confirm that I am honorably withdrawing from the process that will lead to the presidential primaries to be held on the 4th of November 2023. In the next upcoming weeks, I will provide an indication of the role that I will play in politics in Ghana after consultations with my family and other well-wishers, various stakeholders and interest groups. And that brings me to my very first question. Honorable Inusah Fuseini, clearly, Alan has been bruised, he's hurting, he's bleeding, he's hemorrhaging really bad over a humiliation by the votes. Not only the votes that he got, but also by the fact of the caliber of the character who beat him to second place. This could be the only reason that he's avoiding humiliation further?
No, Samson, you are not getting Alan right. You see, Alan went into the elections complaining that this appears to him to be an establishment candidate. That almost everybody is being whipped into line.
He was once an establishment candidate.
He was once an establishment. I agree with
Flying
you.
in helicopter.
So he knows one when he sees
paid for by the state.
So he knows one when he sees it. And so he's left the party disappointed.
He went into the elections.
He went into the elections.
You said he was complaining before it.
He went into the elections. During campaigns, he fought the elections complaining, seriously. Complaining. In fact, his complaints forced Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, the president, to issue a disclaimer. It's his complaints.
They still don't believe that the president does not support Bawumia.
They still do not believe that, and I agree with you. And look at the words he has chosen to use. He says, what happened in their elections? It's appalling.
Unprecedented.
Unquestionable.
Despicable.
These are words of strong condemnation.
You follow the elections.
He says that...
You follow the elections.
Yes.
And you are a very, very colossus in this area. Do you support the claims he makes?
To some extent. Because normally, like I said yesterday, I would have said, I will abide by Atambil's exhortation that Mendimi Fiasem. But this is Ghana. This is our democracy. Parties are enjoined by the Constitution to conduct their affairs along democratic lines.
Yes.
And so if, as a dispassionate political observer, you see a party not conducting itself on democratic lines, you have a right to talk about it because it can affect the national consciousness. I think Alan has a point. But I think he was fighting against a very tall order.
He has a point to raise and elevate a multitude of suspicions into unprecedented violence, intimidation, despicable, unconscionable conduct.
Were there suspicions?
Is that evidence?
Were there suspicions?
He's mentioned only one instance
where
there is evidence to.
And you have seen one instance on national TV where the a regional chairman took a microphone around on the campaign platform of Dr. Bawumia, asking potential voters how they will vote. It's like, where is it done? Where is it done, Samson? You've seen in the northern region where the agent of Alan Kyerematen had to slap a regional chairman. Oh, you've not heard it. Matilda Bugri has not told you.
Martina
Bugri has not told you that. Or it must pass. You've seen the accusation of the chief of staff ensconcing herself in the woman organizer's office, ostensibly to influence the outcome of the election.
Is Alan such a weakling within this, conduct that he's intimidated by a few people? Who are these people? And he can't marshal a plan to beat them to that.
I know you are a consummate reader. Haven't you read what this man has said, Robert Plunkett has said about the establishment? When the establishment has a candidate, in fact, you'll be risking if you fight the establishment candidate. They will deploy all the arsenals against you because they don't want the humiliation. They want to prove a point. Alan knew from the beginning that the fight was going to be difficult. And I agree with you on your assessment. They now talk about victory. I don't think the contest was to elect a victor. The context was a selection context. They had learned from the mistakes of 2008. And so they didn't want a repeat. But Obim Menu, the late Obim Menu, lawyer Obim Menu, you remember,
right,
has said one famous statement when I was in secondary school, and that stuck with me. Repeating mistakes has never been considered as experience. So the fact that you continue repeating mistakes, you can't say that you have learned from your experience. How do you change the rules of a game in the middle of a game?
What rule was changed?
Adanimo and who is it? What's the name?
Boakye-Agyarko.
Thompson, you know, I mean, when we were sitting on a platform like this, we should be, you know, there's a presumption of regularity.
But their constitution tells them that where there are no rules provided, they have the power to determine those rules.
When the management
they
body
didn't anticipate that they will go for a super delegate to select 5, ending up selecting, if you like, 6, and 2 people.
They didn't anticipate. So you see, it's the incompetence
needing to do a runoff.
It's the incompetence of the party that has manifested itself in Nana Akufo-Addo. How can you run an election to shortlist and not anticipate that voters, the voting outcome can tie? How can you think that way and not make rules for that? You want us to believe that? I don't think Samson, level 101 student of law doing the constitution will not anticipate.
He has participated where these rules have been there already before. So, establishment candidate, another person worked and got as many as 132 votes against him.
Yes.
Majority of the polls were that it was going to be either neck and neck with he and Bawumia, and he will be second because of his history and what he brings. You know, either he'll be second in this, quote unquote, and then, or maybe he'll beat Bawumia to it. Well, so to make 95 and get somebody who just got into the race, make 135 plus, that's humiliating. That's embarrassing.
You should understand. You should understand.
That's why he's chickening out.
You should understand that the project to humiliate Alan was so encompassing. You should understand that. They didn't want him to come any close to Bawumia. In fact, they thought that their project to elect a flag bearer must end with the Super Delegates Congress. They were aiming at over 70% for Bawumia, so that they could make a case for Bawumia to go into the elections without a Delegates Congress. They actively supported candidates from the Ashanti region to show interest in the fight. They actively. And I know what I'm talking to you about.
Well, it's only an allegation.
There's an allegation.
It's an allegation.
But so many months ago, about a year and a half ago, I chanced on somebody who was actively campaigning for the vice president. And he told me that, do you know that what's his name? Afriye.
Also Afriye.
Inusah Fuseini is going to contest.
The Akuto
Afriye. Now, so that was directed at the Ashanti region.
He was not doing this for the first time. Is it fair to make this kind of allegation against also Afriye Akuto?
He was not doing that for the first time. He was not doing that. I know he's not doing that.
Yeah, so it's not fair to say that he's been planted there by the establishment.
It's part of the establishment.
To beat down Alan's.
In fact, he's so close to the establishment that the establishment has spoken to him to back off.
Really?
He prized his relationship with the establishment. so many things, there could be many conspiracy theories, but I think that Alan is right. I mean, Samson, why do you think that Alan should continue in the fight?
In the Ashanti region,
in the nature,
Owusu Afriye Akuto got 5 votes, Alan Kyerematen got 10 votes, and Ken got 6 votes. Yes.
And all the rest went to who?
Are you saying that the 5 would have gone to him, or what?
All the rest went to who?
They went to Bawumia, of course.
Bawumia, of course. You know what?
No, but it doesn't support the allegation that he was. Let me.
No, but the fact that the outcome doesn't support what I'm saying doesn't mean that that was not the plan. Okay? With the plan, they still had to work. They still had to whip people into line. Okay? And that's why they swept the Ashanti region. I mean, and their plan was not Ashanti region, the whole of the country. Their plan was to garner enough votes for Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, the vice president, to make a case. And so you must understand that there were many prongs With the flanks.
Some actually say that the fact that 100, as many as 132 super delegates, that's party leaders and influencers, prefer Ken to a man of Alan's stature, tells a very sad story for the NPP. He got only 95 of the 950 votes, total global votes.
Yeah.
They say that the NPP is sinking low and will lose attraction. In fact, as many as 32, as against 25 of those supposed better enlightened delegates voting at the party's headquarters prefer presenting Ken rather than Alan to Ghanaians for presidency.
Perfect.
And they say this shows you that the party degenerated, sinking low.
Yeah.
And for such a person to beat him, and for people in Accra who are the leaders to prefer him, Ken to him, is such a humiliation.
It's not only humiliation. Tells you the magnitude of the operation against Alan Kyerematen. So it means that even in Accra, Alan Kyerematen is not that favorably. I mean, the Accra people are not favorably predisposed to Alan. But I agree with you. All of us are revising our notes, not so. And I know you are revising your notes. The outcome of the elections or the Super Delegates Congress has forced you to look at certain things critically and ask questions, very critical questions. Are we looking on quality, qualification, competence, merit? What are we looking for? Are we looking for long service? Are we looking for commitment? Are we looking for loyalty? Loyalty to the party or individual? What are we looking for? So clearly, to be honest with you, watching what has happened in the NPP, I asked myself, what is it that they voted for? What does Bogome represent?
Harry